Hi guys, this is Coach JT here with Inside the Pack with um, Greg Jamison. He is the founder. He's our special guest speaker tonight. He's the founder of Replicator Coach, and I'm going to let him tell you about this in just a second. But this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Our mission at the Pack is to touch more lives, right? To impact more of our youth with elite level coaching that is both positive and productive and results in wins on and off the field. And for years, I tried to figure out how to do that. So I wrote books and then I started this coaching community, which is now almost 200 coaches strong. So good on you guys. Thanks for being here and thanks for being part of this community. But then, you know, I always thought if I can reach more coaches, then I can reach more kids and then we can make a real difference, right? Well, wait till you see what Replicator Coach is. And this isn't just for baseball and softball, it could be basketball or golf or all kinds of skiing, probably all different kinds of things that Greg will talk about tonight. But I wanted to introduce him and think this is a way that we as coaches can touch more and more people because there always becomes this thing, right? Where if we're trading our time for money, doing the things that we love, we still only have a certain amount of time. But if we can impact more people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by being there, but not actually being there for them, this is something that I believe can help us spread the pack mission almost a viral way. So that being said, Greg, why don't you introduce yourself to the community and just kind of let us know, how did you come up with Replicator Coach?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks, JT, for having me on this uh, podcast. And let me step back a little bit. And that is uh, for people that are watching this as opposed to listening, you can probably see the propeller permanently attached to my head. I am a nerd, always have been. Uh, Back when I was in high school and the dinosaurs were still roaming the earth, my dad was a research professor at Colorado State University, and he brought home a portable teletype machine. So I got to start actually doing home computing about a decade before anybody else did. Uh, I've been enthralled with computers ever since. In the mid 1980s, uh, well, I'll back up even further than that. I guess in the 1950s, uh, there was a group of scientists at MIT that started playing around with a concept that they called artificial intelligence. One of those people, his name was Mike McCarthy, and he kind of coined the term artificial intelligence. Well, nothing really happened significantly with it for quite a while because it was great in concept, but the computer scientists were having a hard time trying to figure out how to actually make machines think. And they started doing some things where uh, the computers would play a game of chess against chess champions and actually win. And so that was kind of the impetus behind really trying to get machines to do things that previously only humans were capable of doing. Uh, so in the mid 1980s, there was a programming language that was very popular called Lisp. It stood for list processing. And I started writing some code in that, doing some things in artificial intelligence. So I've been in the realm basically since the mid 1980s. Uh, my father used to tease me all the time and saying, you only use artificial intelligence if you don't have any real intelligence. So fast forward to let's just skip all the in-between stuff. I've been doing computer stuff my entire career, but uh, fast forward to when generative AI started coming out uh, in like 2022, and OpenAI. opened up what they call their application programming interface, or API, so that you could tie into the work that they were doing with whatever kind of code you wanted to write. So I started getting back to my roots and more heavily involved with artificial intelligence again as generative AI came out. But one of the things that I was doing is I was writing down different pieces of code that I was basically just playing with stuff. I did have a client that wanted me to see if I could do a speech evaluation using artificial intelligence. So instead of somebody having to be there to give a speech critique, you could upload a video of you giving a speech, and the AI would come back and give you feedback saying things like, it looks like you need to work on your vocal inflection. You're using too many ums and ahs. You probably ought to be using more hand gestures, whatever the evaluation might say. Well, I invited Coach JT here to one of my lunch and learns, and he saw me show this off, and he came up afterwards and said, "Could we do that for baseball coaching?" And things kind of escalated from there. So uh, JT gave me some ideas on what it would take to make this work for baseball as opposed to doing speech evaluations. Uh, because of the way that I've been in this industry forever, I've really been an IT coach. Coach people on how to make their applications better, how to fix their computers, how to generate more traffic to their websites and so forth. So I've been in the coaching realm in a different role than JT has. But many of those things, as we started working on the program more and more, looked like, hey, coaching in general, there's a lot of overlap. The things that change are uh, what sport you're coaching or what business application you're coaching and the metrics behind that. So if we can isolate those things, we could build a platform that would actually allow someone to replicate themselves, use their methods, their techniques for coaching, and basically have that be the data that it accesses and the model that it's trained on versus the code itself. And that's kind of where we are with it right now. As an example, with baseball, we took a bunch of the information that JT has related to coaching baseball, and we built that into the training model. The training model uses something that we call assistants, and these assistants consist of two things. One is a set of instructions, and the instructions are actually fairly long. They're a couple pages long that specifically say, this is how I coach, this is the things that I want to critique people on, uh, and so forth. And then we also have a series of documents. So the documents can be PDF files or Word files, they can be images or videos or whatever, but we use all of that as training material. And so now we've got this set of training material over here that the software looks at and goes, oh, you want to coach somebody on baseball, then here's the parameters that I'm going to use because the coach said that this is what is important. And
I
I can go
love
on and on here.
I know. I love it. I love it. And I think it's funny that you started off saying you were a nerd because you just told me you just got back from skiing in your ski club or whatever, which is an athletic event, right? Skiing takes a certain amount of athleticism. And anyway, he's one of us guys. Don't worry about it. And we're all nerds in our own way. Like I'm a very, very much a baseball
Uh,
and softball nerd. Very much so.
yeah, I've been. The people that I was skiing with today, I actually talking with them about how long they've been skiing, and I figured out I've been skiing for 58 years. I During that time, I did ski on the CSU ski team for a couple of years. I also actually trained with uh, several Olympic athletes, including Phil and Steve Mayer. So I take my skiing pretty seriously.
No kidding. This is a fun fact for you and sort of off topic, but my mother-in-law I just found out used to do that. I don't even know what you call it, but it's like the long ski jump where you go off that big ramp and fly through the
Yeah.
air. She did that and almost made the Olympics when she was a teenager. I did not know that. And I've been married to my wife for 24 years.
Yeah, the Nordic ski jumping is insane. They like most athletic events, they keep jumping further and further, and uh, it, the Red Bull actually sponsored a thing last year where they built a jump that was bigger than any jump that's ever been built, and this guy flew like 500 meters or something. I'm just like, can you imagine being in the air that long? I mean, that's like almost two football fields that you're flying through the air.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. That's cool. So
So,
back on the topic here. So yeah, you briefly mentioned it. I You reached out to me because we've been friends for a long time and we've done some things together here and there. And you reached out to me, or maybe I reached out to you. I don't know what happened, but you were like, "Hey, I'm having this lunch and learn. You should come. I need some more butts and seats." And I'm like, "Sure, I'll go check it out."
we
No
ran into each
idea.
other at a restaurant.
Yeah, no idea what this was going to be. And I couldn't even sit in my seat when you were explaining it. I was like thinking, and I'm writing in my notes furiously. I'm like, I think that this is a way for coaches to expand their audience, to keep expanding without the limitations of time, which is the big thing, right?
Yeah. So a couple of the things that we've built into the system as a result of this is that one, we started out saying, let's do this for a baseball coach. And you said, I primarily focus on batting. Well, one of the things that we determined is that uh, coaches have different specialties. So in the case of baseball, you might have a batting coach, you might have a pitching coach, you might have a fielding coach. And the things that you are going to evaluate people on are going to be different for each of those particular coaching skills. I'm kind of sitting here thinking of the NFL playoffs are going on as we're recording this. And obviously, you've got a quarterback coach, you've got an offensive coordinator, you've got a defensive coordinator, you've got a linebacker coach, and so on. Uh, so within a sport, you've got different skill sets. Well, each of those skill sets can now have their own coach in the program, or even a couple of coaches for that. And we can have the coaches display their output side by side, or we can have them display the output separately. And the athlete can go in and say, I want to work on, let's say it's batting. I want to work on batting and I want JT to be my batting coach. Well, the AI will actually utilize all of JT's knowledge and methodologies and provide that feedback for them. And it provides both written feedback and verbal feedback. Uh, it also has built into it the metrics that we're going to look at during those particular evaluations. And so the metrics that we're going to look at for batting are going to be different than the metrics that we're going to look at for pitching, as an example. And it will produce a report card that will show you a score that uh, is used to say, hey, here's how well you're doing on this particular metric. Here's how well you did last time. So you're either improving or staying the same, or maybe you've declined a little bit or whatever, but you can actually track your progress over time.
I love that. And then we're talking to a lot of coaches who own their own facilities and their travel ball organizations and whatnot. And some of the challenges that we have when we're running an organization like that is we don't we don't forget we don't have the time to oversee every single coach and how they're giving feedback to the players as they coach the individual teams inside of our organization, which starts to create this separation and then creates a thing where the parents say, hey, well, you're not really getting a lot of support from JT at the head of the pack because your coaching is a lot different than his, but we like you. And then they break off. So you have this attrition. Do you see this as being a tool that you can use to help train those coaches so they're more hands-on implementing your stuff, and also you can actually be training their kids as part of the team fees or the organization fees or the membership dues at this facility, where you're creating this synergistic coaching at all levels? Say you start at 14U and go through college summer leagues, you're training and can be touching all of those athletes. And by doing something like that, I would think there's a way that you can really separate yourself from the other organizations, the other facilities, and add a layer of support and coaching that they just can't give. These other facilities can't do.
Yeah, absolutely, that's the case. I think uh, one of the things that the software does is that, well, first of all, you upload a video of the athlete trying to perform a certain skill. And what the AI does is it will actually take that video and break it down frame by frame, uh, and give you exact feedback. Uh, and it will display a number of those frames. It goes ahead and it looks at all of the frames, but it may say something that, like, well, at a second and a half into this particular motion, it looks like you stepped forward a little bit before you should have. If you'd held on to your position just a little bit longer, you might have gotten more power, or whatever the feedback might be. But it's looking at the video. Now, if there's audio associated with that video, it will actually transcribe the audio and use that as part of the feedback process as well. And it doesn't have to be a video. Sometimes what it might be is that you are using a uh, data analysis tool. Uh, Different sports have different ones, like cycling uses Strava. Golf uses either something called Golf Track or TrackMan. I think TrackMan is also used in baseball. Uh, and those things produce a series of data. Well, you can take that output from those data analysis tools, whether it be a spreadsheet file, a screen capture, an image of some kind, and feed it into the replicator coach, and it will analyze that and provide coaching feedback also. All of this feedback that it provides, uh, like I said, it's both verbal and written, but the coach has access to that. So answering your question about, can it help train the coach? It absolutely can, because the coach can go back and look at every athlete's performance and see what the AI said to do. And then if the coach wants to, they can give additional feedback on top of that and tell the athlete something like, hey, my AI assistant said that you should do this at 2 seconds in. Uh, that's really good advice. But in addition to that, you may also want to try this. And when that happens, the athlete gets an email that their coach reviewed the AI evaluation, and it becomes a permanent part of their session records. So everything that we're doing, it continues to learn and continues to improve the feedback that is given to the athlete, which is why the report card section works so well.
Yeah, I love it. And this is a great point you bring up here. And I kind of liken it to that old story where about the guy who fixed the steamer. So if you guys who don't know it, I'll tell it in a quick blur here. So essentially there was this steamship that makes a bunch of money every day running up and down the Mississippi, and it quit working. It wouldn't run. And three mechanics came out to work on it, and none of them could get it fixed. And it's finally somebody says, you got to call this guy. This guy can fix it. So he comes out, takes about 5 minutes to walk around the ship, finds a problem, takes his wrench out, smacks a pipe. You hear something rattle loose. All of a sudden, the engine starts and it runs. And then he hands him a bill for 10 grand. And the steamship captain was like, 10 grand, all you did was hit the pipe. He's like, yeah, I'm charging you $1 for hitting the pipe and $9,999 for knowing that that's what was going to fix it. Right. So when you feed all this data, there are so many coaches out there and they're touting, I have Rapsodo, I have Hit Tracks, and not as many, but TrackMan is much more detailed set of data. It's much larger data set. And so they have no idea how to interpret it. There are a handful of guys that do that, and it takes a lot of time. But now you're saying that we can feed that data directly in for one of our athletes, one of our players, or even a parent can just feed that Rapsoda data or that Hit Tracks data into there. And now this AI coach will say, here's what it's telling you, and give you next steps
Yep.
on what to do with that data. Because knowing the data is only one step, right? Having the data, collecting the data is only one step. It doesn't actually mean anything unless you know how to interpret and apply what the data tells you.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case, which is why, like I said, you can feed your replicator coach a video. You can feed it this data in pretty much whatever form you want to, whether it be images or documents or whatever, and it's able to interpret that. And it does all of that because of the metrics that we set up on the back end, as well as the fact that we are coaching based upon a coach's their own knowledge, their own methods, their own expertise. Uh, Unlike a lot of AIs, the replicator coach doesn't just make stuff up. It's not just going out and grabbing generic advice off of the internet. It's utilizing the coaching expertise that we built into the back end.
Yeah, that's so cool. And this is interesting. So just one of the questions I keep getting, so does this have to be professional video that's being uploaded, or does this have to be the coach taking a video where he's giving instructions and then uploading it and the AI gives feedback? What's your response to that?
And no, you can just take your cell phone out there and record a practice session. You can record, say you're swinging a bat. Uh, you could have somebody up there swinging a bat 6 times in a row if you wanted to, and have that be one video, or you could have it be a single pitch and analyze that. It doesn't really matter. We have the length of the video. People are concerned, well, does this just need to be a 10-second video or whatever? And the answer is no, because this started out uh, where we were evaluating public speaking skills. Uh, I've uploaded a 10-minute public speaking video into it, and it breaks the whole thing down, the whole 10-minute speech, and evaluates it. Way better, actually. I was involved in Toastmasters for years. I am a distinguished Toastmaster. I've done a lot of public speaking, and the feedback that this gives you when you have the right metrics behind it is actually better than you would normally get from human evaluators.
Yeah, this is so cool. And it's not just for coaches too, right? I mean, this is something like it seems a human resources department could use or a training or certification course. Tell me a little bit about that. Like where we know that this will work for a coach, right? We've done it, we've seen it. I've actually done examples. I had an ex-player at Cal Poly uploaded his swing and it gave feedback. And he had been in the game for so long and everything. He looked at the feedback and he's like, "This is exactly right. This is exactly what I would tell somebody if I was watching this video."
Yeah. So again, it goes back to how you train the model in the first place, and uh, you can train it on anything. We've had vocal coaches use it so that they're training somebody on how to sing and let them know where they're having pitch problems or uh, enunciation problems, whatever it might be. Uh, it can be used for any type of a business situation, like you were saying. So maybe it's for training real estate agents. Maybe it's simply for onboarding new employees into an organization, and you've got different things that you want to train them on. You can absolutely use it for that. And the cool thing is that the uh, the client, the person using this, uh, even if it's in a business situation or an athletic situation, doesn't matter. Once the coach provides feedback, uh, you can ask it follow-up questions. So you might say, well, that's nice. You told me to do this, but what about this? And it will answer those follow-up questions. And all of that information becomes part of what's called your session. And those sessions are stored permanently per user so that you can track things and see how things are progressing over time. Uh, Again, whether it be a business situation or an athletic situation, it doesn't really matter.
Wow, this is so cool. So, what I've got some friends that are very high up in multi-level marketing, and I don't know that everybody knows what that is, but it's just a sales system, right? And their biggest complaint, I mean, they make a ton of money, but their biggest complaint is it takes all my time. It takes all my time because you have all these people below you and you start to organize these classes and you say, we'll do this training, we'll do that. Well, now you're traveling and you're doing these trainings, which is what you need to do. But what if all of a sudden you could be in all those places, in all those homes, training all those people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but you are reaping the benefits of all of that money you're making. I mean, we're talking about, Michelle. We're talking about Annalise, and we're talking about, oh my God, he lives up in Berthoud. But these guys make triple six figures a month, and they don't their travel is going to different trainings, right, and doing all these trainings. It's not so much as going to these exotic places and vacations because they know in order for their model to continue, they have to continue doing that.
Yeah. So
You see
to
this?
be clear, this is not a training course at all. Somebody in that situation, or even training a real estate person or a salesperson or whatever, it's not a training course. If you've got all of that information, that's the information that we want to use to train the model so that the model now has all of that knowledge that these experts have. And now the student can come in and start asking questions. In multi-level marketing, as your example, uh, people ask their upline questions all the time. This is perfect for that. We talked about having a video. Well, you could certainly put a video in there of you doing a sales presentation, and it would analyze that based upon this expert's knowledge that we just uploaded from all of the training information they had. But you don't actually have to upload anything. You can just go in and ask a question, and it's still going to pull from that knowledge base and be able to give a good answer that looks and sounds exactly like the kind of information that their up-level support person would give them if they were on the phone with them.
What a great way. What a great way to explain that. So this is there's almost endless possibilities with this. And this is what I see about the replicator coach. It is such a valuable system. And like you said, I mean, in football alone, there's so many different layers or in baseball, right? Baseball and softball, which I know very well. You got pitching coaches, you got catching coaches, you got fielding coaches, you got throwing coaches, you got arm care specialists, you got speed and agility, you got strength training, you got all of these different aspects. And now you can take and really amplify or monetize your facility and your organization. Even I see this being used in recruiting, right? So if you're an organization, part of the attraction of PAC is we're connected to over 7,500 college coaches. And we have, if not direct communication, some way to directly contact these coaches. And we kind of have an understanding of what they're looking for. But if you're, say, a coach who's been around, like there's a coach in Atlanta who's in our community who's been around doing this for 30 some years, formerly Major League Baseball player, and he knows the recruiting process and he knows a lot of this coaching and he has a lot of videos talking about and teaching parents, because parents usually go through it one or two times, three times, maybe, right? And then they're done. It's not like you keep doing that. You know, I have three girls. At the very most, I would go through that process three times, right? But a coach goes through it over and over and over again with all the girls or all the boys on every team they go through, right? And maybe it's not every single one, but it's most of them. Because most of these kids that are playing in travel ball organizations want to play at the next level. That's why they're playing at this competitive level. Not all of them, but most of them. And what are your thoughts about somebody who maybe is like, okay, I've been putting all these YouTube videos up about how to recruit in order to attract people to come to me to help them get their kids into a college. Is there a way that this system might be able to help that guy?
Yeah, well, as you were saying, you're basically repeating yourself as a coach, and I don't care what kind of a coach you are, you're repeating yourself over and over again. I know when I was doing competitive skiing that our coaches would tell me something, and I'd watch the next guy come down, and they'd tell him the same thing, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
and we were even though I'm old, when we were doing this, we did have video, and we would actually take a video of us skiing down through the gates and so forth, and then we'd go into the little coaching shack at the bottom of the race hill and pop the videotape into the player and look at the thing, and the coach would be in the hut with us there. In fact, the Mayer twins would do this with us as well. They'd pull up the video and they're like, "Look right there on gate three. You know, planted your pole too late, and that's why you lost a half a second." Uh, so, you the fact that you are no longer having to trade hours for dollars is a huge benefit of the replicator coaching platform. Um, but there's other ways that it really helps you if coaching is your business also. Uh, the fact that this is a subscription model makes it so that you're basically creating an entirely new revenue stream uh, in your coaching business. You're no longer having uh, to just trade hours for dollars, but you're also able to work with way more people than you ever did before. One of the things that we built into this early on is the fact that it works in pretty much any language that you throw at it. This is configured on the back end per application of it. So if uh, your particular market is not only English but Spanish. In the United States, we have a lot of people that speak both English and Spanish. Uh, that right there expands your market tremendously, even if you don't speak Spanish. I think JT can uh, kind of talk about how he felt the first time he heard himself speaking Spanish to one of his athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we went to the European Baseball Conference and demoed this replicator coach, and it was the baseball and softball version. And when we went out there, I would ask them, and their official language was like Deutsch or something like that, right? And
Yeah, yeah, or Flemish or something.
Flemish, yeah, Flemish. Okay. And so they could barely speak broken English, these coaches. And I said, well, do you want it in your language? And they're like, what? And then I would show it to them, and it would be me speaking perfectly their language to them. And they were just like blown away. And it creates this, like, even now, even here in Colorado, I coach kids that don't speak very much English. It's mostly Spanish. And the ability to just say, hey, here's the feedback. And I'm assuming when I type in my coach's feedback, will it translate it to Spanish if that's the way that they want to see it on their
It,
side?
yeah, it can read any language as well as speak any language that you throw at it. And it doesn't, by default, it doesn't have, 200 languages in there or whatever. You tell it which languages you want to use because it may not make any sense. Baseball, the primary languages for the baseball playing countries of the world are obviously English, Spanish, and Japanese. And then there's a handful of others. It probably doesn't make any sense to uh, be throwing things out there like Swahili or something because that's not some place that you would market to. But the point of that discussion is that this really expands your market. And I know that there's a lot of Olympic coaches for sure that people hire Olympic coaches from other countries because they're the best in the world and they want to work with the best in the world. But here's a athlete that their language is English and the coach's language is Czechoslovakian or something, and it's actually a way for them to communicate better with each other.
Yeah, I imagine that's so cool. So we're kind of nearing the end of this segment, and I want to just kind of wrap it up and sort of put a little bow on it here because this is such a powerful tool and asset. And before I forget, Greg, feel free to put your contact information out there, whatever you want to put out there when you go back to talking. But what I'll say is, in the community, you can DM me. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you can go to trainwithpack.com and reach out to me. You can reach out to me via email at jt@trainwithpack.com. Any way you want to get a hold of me to talk about this, I'd be happy to introduce you to Greg. We're possibly going to be in partnership on this. Nothing's solidified yet, but I can always introduce you to Greg. I have no problem with that. This is really cool and a great way to expand your reach. And with that being said, kind of wrap this all up for our listeners and say, like, what is it that Replicator coach? What's like the one ultimate benefit wrapped up in a little bow Bo, that you can say Replicator coach will do this for
Yeah.
our community?
And th- I really see it as two benefits that are related. The one that we've been talking about here is that you stop trading hours for dollars. You can be in multiple places all at the same time, and uh, and quite honestly, I can guarantee that it works. I've been spending the last several days running stress tests on this platform, and it will handle hundreds of users simultaneously, which is a really big thing. So it is going to replicate you so you can be in multiple places at once. You're not trading hours for dollars. And at the same time, you're actually generating new revenue streams if coaching is your business. So it's a win-win. The athletes get a win because they have access to the coach 24/7. The coach gets a win because they can work with as many athletes as they want to at the same time.
I don't think you can say it better than that. And I see this as being such a valuable asset. So when we're coaching, for instance, my travel ball, I'm currently coaching the 18U softball team for our PAC organization, and scheduling practices is a challenge because there's still students, there's still athletes, and a handful of the girls work, so you have to schedule around that. And now with Replicator Coach, excuse me, not only do you still have that time with them, but you can say, hey, upload your swings that you're taking on these days off when you're not with me, and let's take a look at those. Let's get feedback so that you're not going a full week doing something that is actually creating a bad habit as opposed to doing something that's creating a good app. It's a great feedback tool that's so instantaneous, and then you have it right there. You can log back in and access it, and it even will tell you. And I'm not sure about the other ones, but in the baseball one, when you upload the swing, it'll give you the feedback. It has some videos of drills and of me teaching you how to do those drills, and then it also says, okay, upload your next video on such and such a date. That's sort of keeping you accountable. Hey, I got to do these things between now and then. And then the system, because it's tracking everything, can see that you're progressing, and you can see that. And, I can't remember exactly what he said, but Kevin Trudeau used to always say, if you don't track it, how do you know you got better? Right. If you're
Yep.
looking at, that's why baseball and softball and football and these metrics, everything is tracked. Every single thing is tracked. And when a manager on a baseball team, he used to manage based on his gut feeling, and there's still a certain amount of that, but you're also saying, okay, in this situation, the percentage of the odds get better if I have this hitter. He always does good in this, or he always does good in this, or she always does good in that. And you can put those players in a better position to win because you're tracking all that data. And having this data at your hands through this replicator coach is just going to be a value, so invaluable. And it's not just collecting the data, it's using whatever data you're turning in and actually interpreting it and coaching in the way that you coach, which is it just blows my mind every time I think about this. I just get so
It,
excited.
it, and quite honestly, the really cool thing about this is that uh, as we've been building this, I have not found any other program out there that is doing what we're doing. There's certainly tools out there that are data analysis tools. There are uh, tools out there that are cloned type of tools. Like I was showing this to some sales and marketing people, and they were like, "Yeah, yeah, that's like what Tony Robbins is doing." And I'm like, "No, it's not. I'll show you what Tony Robbins is doing." And what he's doing is he cloned himself and is able to answer questions for you, but he's not interpreting this data over a period of time so that you can actually get better. Uh, to the best of my knowledge, this is the only platform out there that's doing that.
Yeah, well, if Tony listens to this podcast, he's going to be reaching out to you, Greg.
That's all right. I'll talk to Tony. Uh, so to answer your earlier question, I've actually got a page out there with a number of different demos on it for anybody that actually wants to see this in action. You can go to my website at gregjameson.com/AI-coach, and that will bring up a page where there's multiple video demos of this in action. So there's like a baseball uh, demo on there. There's a golf demo on there. There's I don't remember what all is in there, but there's 7 or 8 different demos in there, so you can see this in action. And if you go down to the bottom of the page, then there's a link on there where you can contact me as well.
And you have like a Calendly link or something that they can schedule a call with you?
Right. That link is I'll put that in the notes here too if you want to add it to the show notes or whatever, but that's on the bottom of this page of gregjameson.com/AI coach. My Calendly link is actually pretty easy. It's calend.ly/Greg
Yeah. And the website again is gregjameson.com/.
AI-coach.
AI-coach. So that's easy too. All right. All right, Greg. Well, is there anything else you want to say before I close out this episode tonight?
Only that if people are really serious about not only their coaching, but actually making their coaching be available to a wider audience, this is a great way to scale your coaching business.
This is something I feel like I should say something here because I see this so often, right? Because I have in the facility, I've had catching instructors come in there, pitching instructors, hitting instructors, and they all have other full-time jobs. And the reason they have other full-time jobs is they don't have enough hours in the day to trade for enough money to make this a viable thing, but they love coaching. And this I could see as a way to say, hey, you can do this full time. And maybe they still do a lot of that physical coaching because it's so rewarding, so absolute rewarding. But they're also reviewing each of these sessions, and there's different subscription levels, and we won't go into that tonight, but you can get it where you're actually reviewing each session and, like you said, and giving feedback. But I see this as a way for those coaches who couldn't figure out how to make this a living, as opposed to just, I'm going to raise my hourly rate. I'm going to raise my hourly rate. I'm going to raise my hourly rate. Well, that difference is so minuscule, right? It's so minuscule. You get just a little bit more money and you start to drop off those guys that can't afford you. Well, now you can switch to, if you can't afford to pay me X amount per hour to actually come to you, right? Then you can subscribe to my coaching through this Replicator coach. And now you get virtually the same outcome. You are getting coaching from me in the same way that I coach to help inspire, motivate, improve your game in whatever it is that I'm coaching you on. And you're doing it for much less, but at the same time, I'm able to expand my coaching in a way where maybe I was doing this a couple hours every night and I was missing out on my family time and kids time because I had to be there those hours in order to do it. And now it's a full-time job. It's a full-time income where there's so many kids getting homeschooled, and there's so many kids that want to go to an academy like the one we're opening and all of these things because schooling and education and all that is really going through some changes right now. And this couldn't have been introduced at a better time. And if coaches are part-time, making a little bit of money doing what they love, they can absolutely use this to really scale and go full-time where they make, virtually unlimited amount of money doing what they love as long as they're good. I mean, the caveat here is you have to be an effective coach, or this isn't going to. You're just replicating something that is not effective.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
one point here before we wrap up to kind of follow up on what you were saying is the coach is the one that determines how much money you're going to charge for these subscriptions, whether it be the basic tier subscription, the premium subscription, a team-wide subscription, whatever it is. The coach sets that fee. That's not a fee that I set.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I think that's enough information for the community to kind of get an idea of what this is. I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited. All I've ever wanted to do is expand my reach and make it so that coaches do a better job to improve athletes on and off the field. We want wins on the field. We want wins in life. You know, I'm a firm believer in how you do anything is how you do everything. So fully commit to this. This is something that can change a lot of lives. I'm really excited. Thanks for being with us here tonight, Greg, and look forward to seeing you in the future in some capacity. And maybe we'll have a live Q&A based on the conversation that we had tonight. We might schedule that when it's convenient for you and get all of the questions answered for the community. That being said, thank you guys for joining us on Inside the Dugout with the Pack. Our special guest tonight was Greg Jameson. He's put his contact information in here. We'll make sure you have access to that. And if you have any questions, just DM me through Train with Pack on our school platform. That is free to join. So if you're listening to this on Spotify and you want to ask us questions and get answers in real time to baseball and softball coaching is what I do, then that would be a fabulous way to do that. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, JT.